Welcome to our fourth in a series of debates for the Anchorage Assembly races, for the 6 Anchorage Assembly races. Only 2 incumbents are seeking re-election, Assembly members Daniel Voland and Cameron Perez-Verdilla. District 6 is an open seat. Incumbent Assembly member Randy Salt is not seeking re-election. 2 candidates are running for the seat, Keith McCormick and Darin Colbry. Keith is here. Darin was supposed to be here, and he's canceled. So we've got that for, we'll take that away a little bit. But ballots for the 6 Assembly races, 2 school board races, and bond propositions went out in the mail this week. They're due back by April 1st. Before we start the debate, I've got to thank our sponsors, GCI, the Sumner Company, one of the premier home builders in the Mat-Su Valley, Legislative Consultants of Alaska, Wendy Chamberlain and Heather Brakes, lobbyists, the IBW Local 1547, and Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets. We're going to start with giving each candidate an opening statement, in this case just Keith, and it's going to be a little more podcasty after that. We'll have a discussion, Keith and I, about the issues facing Anchorage, and Darin's not here, so Keith, thanks for coming, and go ahead and give a quick opening statement, then you and I will have a discussion about some of the issues facing Anchorage.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thank you again for having me. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in South Anchorage. I grew up in the Ocean View area. I graduated from South High School, and after high school, I served 5 years in the Marine Corps Infantry. After moving back to Anchorage, I wanted to raise my family here because of what a great experience I had growing up. I had a variety of jobs. I worked as an EMT in Whittier. I was Alaska's Entrepreneur of the Year in 2018 for a software company I started. And most recently, I earned a doctorate in medical science, and now I work as a PA in pediatric psychiatry. All just to say that my experience, I think, make me a great candidate to represent the South Anchorage District. And what I will be looking to do on the Assembly is support infrastructure, bring lasting solutions to homelessness, which is an issue that's very close to my heart as I've been volunteering in the Downtown Soup Kitchen since I was a young boy, and now as my career is budding, my children volunteer there more. So I think Anchorage can be returned to the vibrant, beautiful town that it was, that I remember when I was growing up. And I think we can do that without continuing to raise taxes on our working members. So thank you again for having me.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, appreciate you. And I've got to say, you've written some articles, some community voices for the Landmine over the years on homelessness and other issues, so I appreciate that. And I know you've been pretty engaged for the last couple of years on a lot of these issues. First thing I want to ask you is, in 2022 and 2023, the Assembly races were very well funded, a lot of money being raised and spent. There was Mayor Bronson, there was the Assembly, very contentious. This time, fundraising is way down. You've actually raised quite a bit of money compared to the other candidates. Some your opponents not filed an APOC report. South Anchorage is traditionally one of the more higher turnout, politically engaged areas. It's just you and Darin Colbry who didn't show up, hasn't raised any money. Why do you think it's just you and maybe not any other folks have gotten into that race for the open seat?
I'm really not quite sure why we haven't gotten more engagement, because you're right, the South Anchorage District is traditionally very heavily involved and has great voter turnout. And sentiment that I've heard from my district and what you see around online and talk to people about, there's a lot of issues that people are very passionate about. So I was honestly hoping for a better turnout here today to talk about these issues.
There was some talk before the filing deadline in January. I had heard several names of other folks that were going to maybe run, and then it just didn't really. I mean, you're not quite unopposed, but I mean, Darin's run many times and doesn't really raise money. So I mean, I'm going to go ahead and right now say you're going to win. It's good to
thanks for the prediction.
Good to have a nice race, but it just seems kind of in general, a lot of these seats, people aren't raising money, and I wonder how much that has to do with the mayor's now kind of more in line with the Assembly, and also there was the presidential, there was the Nick Begich race, there was the legislative, all these big races back in November, so maybe there's some fatigue.
I think it's fair to say there's been some voter fatigue, as you said, with the federal election. We just came through a big election cycle, a large November. I think people are a little burned out, but at the same time, how much of an excuse in that we have a lot of issues to tackle in this city, and they need our attention and focus.
I assume you're hitting doors. What are you hearing at the doors as far as what people are concerned about?
Yeah, I'm getting out to every event I can. All the community councils, been to my Halo Forum, making phone calls.
That's the Hillside Landowners.
Hillside Landowners, yep. They had a great forum that, again, Darin said that he would attend, and he was a cutout there.
Give a little shot. There he is.
This is what
We
showed
got
up
him
to
a
the
little
Halo.
laugh, Mike.
Yeah. But no, what I'm hearing is people are ready for lasting solutions to homelessness. COVID obviously was some extenuating circumstances. It needed to be addressed, but now, since COVID, we spent $190 million on homelessness in this town, and anyone that's lived here for a few years can tell you we're no better off for it.
I kind of joke. Sometimes I say it's almost like the more we spend, the worse it gets, or it doesn't get better. And I've covered this for the last 5 or 6 years. You've written about this. At least from my view, it seems to me to really solve this, it's got to be a carrot and stick approach. And the carrot is, folks need help with housing. A lot of these people are mentally ill. They're drug addicted. They're alcoholics. So that's the carrot, is offering help. But the stick is for the people who have issues or drug addicted or who just choose to be outside. Many of them tell me when I go out there they want to be outside. Mm-hmm. We don't really seem to want to tell people they can't do that. We've kind of, part of it was that old case, that Martin v. Boise case that was overturned by the Supreme Court last. So there's really no excuse anymore.
Johnson, yeah.
But it just seems like it's just for so long kind of been allowed to happen, and it's everywhere. It's all over downtown, midtown, South Anchorage.
Yeah, it's moving across our communities. It's making people feel unsafe in their homes, unsafe to just park alongside the street, let alone walk down them. I think a little known fact is that the city of Anchorage spent almost $0 before COVID addressing homelessness.
Yeah, and we've talked about that in some of the prior debates. There's been very little money the city had spent on it.
The nonprofits of our community entirely bore the burden for us with donated funds, zero taxpayer dollars. And what we've seen since COVID, when we started putting tens of millions of dollars every year into this, is that they've been cracking down on the nonprofits that have been doing such great work since the 80s to solve this and work towards solutions for these people. And they've put moved zoning requirements on them, licensing, permitting issues, and just making it more and more difficult for them who have had great results. I mean, the Hope Center, the downtown soup kitchen, formerly known, is, housing people 3 meals a day, an amazing job training program for $20 to $30 a day. It's zero taxpayer dollars. They're doing amazing work. I just went and toured the rescue mission, and they're doing the same thing. They have job training that lasts 1 to 2 years, and then ongoing support for housing, low-income housing subsidized for people when they get jobs out in the community. Those are long-lasting results, and they're done without taxpayer dollars. We need to be supporting those groups.
So we talked about this in the other debates, and this is something on a lot of people's minds. It's been a really dry winter. If we have another hot, dry summer, South Anchorage is one of the areas in the hillside, also Eagle River, but in general in Anchorage, but really in South Anchorage and Eagle River, if there's a big fire, there's a lot of dead trees. It's an issue of public, state, federal, city land, private property. How worried are you about a big fire event, and are we doing enough, or what should we be doing to make sure we can mitigate any kind of big fire that happens?
Yeah, this is the second huge thing I'm hearing from people in my district. Like you said, low snow load and this increasing fire risk, and this year is going to be astronomical. I don't know if everybody should watch the Cale Green review.
Cale Green did a review for the landmine last week, and I did a podcast with oh my gosh, I forget his Glover, the wildland fire, John Glover, the wildland fire chief for Anchorage, and we talked about a lot of these issues, and it's interesting. He made a good point that we don't expect the government to stop hurricanes or tornadoes, but we do expect the government to stop wildfires.
But there's some stuff we can do about wildfires,
but
right?
some of it's homelessness. These fires, that's how the one in 2019 started. It was a homeless camp over in Elmore.
Yep.
So we can definitely do things, but other times it's just a fire gets started, naturally with lightning or with anything.
It happens. Fires need 3 things, right? Oxygen, fuel, and a spark. And you can't control the oxygen, and you can't control the spark, but you can control the fuel. And we need to get out there and we have over 500,000 dead spruce trees waiting for that spark on the hillside.
And I've seen it's a property I bought, and I've seen what happens when a dead spruce tree, it goes up fast. It's like a matchstick.
Yep.
They're very, very dry. They're dead. When they go, they burn very quick and very fast and very, very hot.
Yep, we need to be exercising our easements and clearing. I'm not saying plow them flat, but we need to be clearing the dead, clearing the down dead. city land, park land. There's plenty of dead trees on those as well that we need to clear out and help mitigate this risk.
Yeah, one of the tougher problems is on the private property. It's up to private property owners to mitigate. And the wildland chief Glover told me that they actually, if you call them, they'll come out and do an assessment, a free assessment. But it's a big challenge when private property owners say, I don't want to cut my trees down, and it's just really, we saw what happened in LA and some of these other fires in California, and when it happens, it's like 1 ounce of prevention is worth how much more, and after the fact money.
Dozens of fire trucks. Yep. It's going to be balancing out personal liberty with the risk of all of our properties. If one property goes up, we're all at great risk. And right where that homeless camp started the fire off Elmore the other year, that's about the area that UA was predicting that if a fire started there and the winds were just right, that the whole hillside.
Well, luckily,
could be
when that
gone in
happened,
8
there was
hours.
not
there was no
much wind.
Yeah, but 8 hours and we could have 40,000 people without homes.
So I want to ask about housing. It's not a secret. The average price of a home in Anchorage is over $500,000. The rents are at average of $1,400, and we've heard the Assembly for many years talk about zoning and permitting and building perp codes and all these things, and it just never seems to really change. The Valley houses are being built. Half the houses last year were built in the Mat-Su Valley. The average price of a home is cheaper. The rents are cheaper, a little cheaper. Why do you think we've kind of stalled out there? And Suzanne LaFrance, the mayor, wants to build 10,000 homes in 10 years, which I don't know how we're going to even get close to that when we've only built a couple hundred the previous years. How do we fix the housing problem?
I think the Assembly has work to do with planning, zoning, development, regulations. We, as a city, have been very quick to throw on new regulation, and not going through planning and zoning commissions, recommendations and suggestions. And now we have contradictory regulations that are making it just incredibly hard for developers or anybody to navigate. I mean, coming from an entrepreneurial background, I can understand that. It makes it a very hard place to want to invest in, and we need to clean up these regulations so that people can come in, have a clear understanding of what the guidelines are and what they have to build within, but giving them the free market range to build what they want to build, because they want to build things that are marketable to people that will sell. So giving and allowing the free market to range.
A lot of builders say the problem really gets complicated or bigger when you're above a triplex. After a fourplex or bigger units, it becomes even more difficult. So they don't even really try to build those bigger units, which are more dense, which can be cheaper. How much do you think the NIMBY element fuels this? You've got the Girdwood, the Holton Hills. They showed up in that's your district, Girdwood, and some of the other places where when there's a housing proposal or a zoning, there was some of the members, Volin, Zolotel, and Cross, last year on some of the rezoning. The people just kind of, not in my backyard. I got mine. I have my house. You can't change anything. And meanwhile, people can't afford. People starting out, it's hard to find a place. Low vacancy rates. The price of a home compared to the wages, over the last decade, is way outpacing the price of a home is far outpacing wages.
I think these complexes have their place in our community, but I think we need to have a wide range of zoning and living areas within our community, right? If I see the NIMBY aspect of it, but also if we try and rezone all R6 to say, hey, you can build condominiums all across the hillside, the hillside can't handle that. I think even some people on the hillside don't realize, but we're living off the land, right? We don't have city water, we don't have wastewater, so we're punching down wells, we're putting in septic tanks. If you start putting 8 homes on a square acre and punching wells and septics and thinking the land's gonna support that, it's not. The wells will run dry, or they'll be coming up with brown water in them.
What do you think? I'd say, I just kind of knowing you're probably a little more to the conservative side. The Assembly's, kind of got a big progressive block, and then the mayor, she's on the progressive side. If you, like I said, I think you're going to win. How are you going to navigate that, being one of the maybe few kind of more conservative people on the Assembly with a big, large, more progressive block?
I respect and I like that the Assembly races are nonpartisan. I think a lot of this local stuff, it's potholes, it's zoning and codes, and it's not as partisan as people like to generally make it. I've met with just about every sitting Assembly member now and had great conversations with them. We have I have middle ground with all of them because everybody's different. You know, this left, right, you're this, I'm this. I don't feel that it applies that strictly in the assembly.
Have any of them, I assume, some of them read some of the stuff you've written over the years?
Yeah.
Do they have any kind of
everybody's got different.
comments?
Yeah, everybody's got.
Because when you're more outspoken,
feedback.
It's easier to kind of criticize somebody or, hey, I read this, or some people don't say much, so it's hard to really know where they are.
Honestly, I've had great meetings with all of them, so I'm looking forward to working with them.
There's been several kind of high-profile police shootings in this year, a few, and last year there was several, and there's been some calls for more civilian oversight, and then other people are saying, well, the cops can't do their jobs. Where are you at on kind of this idea of civilian oversight versus a lot of these guys that were shot, people that were shot were either shooting at the police or wouldn't drop their weapons. So I know it's kind of a emotional issue, but where are you at and also recruitment? We have a hard time. We have a lot of vacancies in the APD.
I went on a ride along with APD about 2 weekends ago with the mobile intervention team, which was great. It kind of aligned with my background in psychiatry. And
did you do it at night?
I did 2 p.m. to I think they did till 2 a.m. But I had to work in the morning, so I cut it at 10 p.m.
I did one years ago, and I did this 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. on a Friday night, and man, I saw like every interaction you have is a negative interaction, and some of the stuff you see is wild. Crazy, kind of scary.
I was really impressed with the officer and social worker that I was with. I mean, how they handled themselves, how they handled the calls. I mean, multiple calls of suicidal ideation, suicide attempts. They handled it with, respect, care, dignity. It was great seeing the partnership between the two. I think it's incredibly helpful for our community. I talked to the officer while I was there, helped that I've known him since junior high school.
Cool.
But, I was like, hey, how supported do you feel from the community itself? And he was like, I feel like the community supports me, which is amazing, right? Like, officers want to work in communities they feel supported by. Asked how supported do you feel by the administration? He felt supported by administration. Asked him about headshed leadership support, which he said was great. And then brass tacks.
Headshed's the school, right?
What was that?
Is Headshed the school district?
No,
the police.
The police.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear Headshed applied to the.
Oh
the
no,
school
I just
district
meant like his own leadership,
okay.
high up leadership, and then like brass tacks, like. How's the middle leadership, right? Because those are the ones you come in and work with day in and day out, and like that can make your life really good or really bad. And he said it was great. Like he really enjoyed the working environment, which just bodes so well for our police force. And I know we have some recruitment openings, and we need to do better. We need to get those spots filled. People need to feel safe in their homes. If this city's going to spend money, it needs to be on public safety. We have a crumbling core infrastructure right now in our community where people don't feel safe. Fire danger, the homelessness crisis, and the assembly and our government keeps trying to put cherries on tops and this next shiny thing and this nicety thing. And we're trying to put sprinkles and cherries on top of an ice cream that's melting. Our core fundamentals are crumbling. We need to pull back. We need to reestablish the core. We need to feel safe, and we need to build up our infrastructure. And then at that point, if we want to do these nice projects, we can start adding on top of it.
One of the things I hear from a lot of people from having covered this public camping issue for so long is people are just nervous to go on the trails, and even Davis Park, which is a really nice park, and Mountain View, which is a kind of lower income area. Kids should be able to go to the park, but there's just so many kind of people camping there and drugs and scary people. But a lot of people are nervous to go on the trails and go use our parks, which we have a lot of nice trails in Anchorage. We have a lot of nice parks.
I don't blame them. Yeah, I've looked around there. My wife's a runner. She loves to run the trails, and there's plenty she won't go to because it is, frankly, just not safe. And that's unacceptable as a community. And as we talked about earlier, Grants Pass versus Johnson, it's opened up opportunities for us. We're talking about police force and utilizing our resources in the most effective manner. And right now, the 3 touches, 72-hour notice, and then abatement, that's not effective use of our police force. And we need to not tolerate people in our public spaces making it unsafe, breaking the law. It's strange to say we need to enforce the laws. You can't just break the laws and continue to do it.
Well, there's plenty of laws on the books about public camping and cooking in public and doing and they kind of they've been ignored for a long time. The legislature, the House just passed this bill to increase the base student allocation. It's got to go to the Senate, and there's a lot of talk about how much it costs, and there's a deficit in the state budget, and there's even the new forecast is showing oil prices are probably going to be down. You talked about the city spending some more money, but on homelessness, the state, I don't think we can rely on much money from the state for things, and also the federal cutbacks on that from Trump administration and this Doge. So where do you see Anchorage? There's been talk of the sales tax, which is seems like it's on the back burner for now. Where do you see Anchorage going as far as stepping in from when the state and the feds might not be providing as much money when we have a lot of needs?
And that goes back to what I said earlier. We need to get back to the core fundamentals of government and infrastructure, public safety, solving this homelessness and humanities crisis that we're experiencing on the street. We need to be pulling back right now. We can't keep on building and trying to do the next nice thing and the next beautification project that you can't even enjoy because you can't go to the parks because it's unsafe.
So there's been talk of this 3% sales tax, and there's been different versions of it, and they've put it on hold for now. But we have high property taxes, much higher than the national average. The tourists come in the summer. There's people from the valley coming in. What do you think about a sales tax that would partially maybe offset property taxes or provide new revenues for the city?
I appreciate Randy Solt's work. He did a great job representing our district. In this is one of the cases I disagree with him on. I appreciate that he went in and put the 7-year trigger on this to get voted on again in 7 years. My feeling is after 7 years, that's the status quo. And that
it's hard to take something away from government.
Yeah, the government's never seen a tax it doesn't love, right? I do not believe it will meaningfully reduce my property taxes. It would be a very different conversation if we said, hey, let's change out a sales tax and you no longer have to rent the property you think you own from the government. I could get interested about that, but this is not that. I don't see that there will be a meaningful reduction in my property tax. We'll have a sales tax as our property taxes continue to go up.
What about snow plowing? We've seen 2 years of huge snowfalls this winter. Thank God it's not been a lot of snow. But for 2 years we saw school closures, this remote learning, whatever, basically a closure, and businesses being impacted and commerce being impacted. I guess why do you think it was such a problem? The not being able to plow the roads in the city and the state. And then do you think there's been some new equipment they've talked about purchasing and some other steps? Do you think we're ready for another big snowfall year?
I told Mayor LaFrance that she absolutely delivered on her campaign promise. The streets this season have just been amazing.
She got real lucky. Bronson had 2 of the highest snowfall winters in memory in a row. And then she's like, somebody actually posted a picture and they were like, this is a few months ago, and they were like, look at the roads, they're so good. And I'm like, it hasn't snowed.
It hasn't snowed.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, they've been great. Yeah, no complaints. It's been great. This comes down, it is a absolutely objective, pragmatic issue for me. Let's look at the numbers. Let's see the equipment we have, the use on it, the cost to rebuild, the cost to replace, amortization, depreciation of the asset. It's a simple numbers game. Like, let's look and see what's most cost effective for us to do.
And a lot of this equipment, you can't just go buy it at the car dealership. It's 12 months, 18 months lead for some
we need to look
pieces of equipment. They're doing a naming contest. Which is going to go bad.
Oh, Plowy McPlowface. It's got to be.
It's going to end bad. It's not going to end well. I think they put some guidelines on it. But
I love it. Hey, the naming contest is awesome. I heard there's going to be like a GPS component so you can see where they're at around the city. Cool. I'm a software guy with the background in the entrepreneurship stuff. I love it.
I like the idea of tracking them like a LoJack where we can see where they are and what they're doing.
LoJack, in case it gets stolen in this town.
Well, luckily the car theft has gone down. Remember after SB 91 years ago, it was like you either had your car stolen or have somebody directly had their car. I know dozens of people who had their car when they're warming them up or when they're at an event. Many. That was a kind of crazy time.
It was bad. It's getting better. There's been good steps, and I want to keep that going. I want to fund the public safety, get more APD, better trained officers out there. More officers. Let's get this community feeling safe again.
Okay, quick one. Kinnick Bridge, Kinnick Tunnel, yes or no?
Which one?
I don't care either one.
Both, either? Why not?
I'm kind of preferable to the tunnel because
I know you're big. You're a big fan.
I think that'd be awesome. But the bridge is fine too.
Being the EMT out in Whittier for so long, I have to say we really like the title of the longest tunnel in North America. So
this one wouldn't be. This one would be shorter, I think.
It'd be shorter. So
we
don't have that interference.
That's a long tunnel, that Anderson tunnel.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You ever get stuck?
Never got stuck. Drove through the ambulance.
I know people who missed the last one.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to miss the last one. I was the EMS, though. I had the key.
Last thing I'll ask you about is, this is, I think a little more of a state federal issue, but the Cook Inlet, we have this gas crisis, and we're going to be importing LNG.
Yep.
Probably very soon. NSTAR, Chugach Electric, the bills are already kind of going up. They're going to go up more. And, we might get a gas line, we might not, but that's still a ways out.
Yep.
Do you think the city has any role in this, or is this just something the state and federal government need to kind of deal with?
I think this is an issue for hire at this point right now. The city, we need to be watching it closely, and we need to, be making the contacts early and now and letting them know that, we're willing and ready to start working on this with them as soon as, they come down to us and have the plan of what we need to do.
I just don't think as many people enough people realize how close we saw that energy grid almost failure last year when it was really cold, and a lot. I mean, we use heat for gas to heat our homes, and unless you have a wood burning stove,
yep,
and for power too, huge amounts of percentages of the power or electricity is created from natural gas.
Yep.
So I think it's. I hope more people are aware of it and how kind of.
I think people are starting to hear about the topic more, and the more times we touch on it, people will get more and more aware about the significant issues that's coming up.
Well, Keith, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Sorry, Darin couldn't. We actually called him, and he was like, "Was that today?" So he was invited. He did accept, but he didn't show up. So Keith McCormick,
I'll show up for the assembly.
Appreciate you being here. District 6, South Anchorage, open seat. Randy Salt is not running for re-election, so it's you and old Darin there. And folks, ballots went out in the mail on March 11th. They're due back on. Oh, there he is. Good little side-by-side cut there. Ballots went in the mail on March 11th. They're due back by April 1st. Again, I want to thank Keith McCormick for coming in for the open South Anchorage Assembly seat. I want to thank our sponsors again, GCI, the IBW Local 1547, Legislative Consultants of Alaska. Did I forget? I forgot. Alaskans for Sustainable Budgets and the Sumner Company, Mat-Su Valley's premier home builder. This is our fourth debate. We have two more tomorrow, the last two. I want to thank Keith, not so much Darin, and I want to thank our team of people here that make these debates possible, make these kind of events possible. So tune in tomorrow for the final two debates, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Keith.
Awesome. Thank you.